Some frustrating news to open up Buffalo Bills training camp, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know, all Buffalo Bills rookies were set to appear today or report to training camp. And I feel like all of us were just enamored with the thought of, is TJ Sanders going to show up? We're still waiting on that confirmation, or like whether or not that he decided to show. But the story and the reason why I have decided to go live on an emergency edition of the Don Mafia Report just so happens to be that our edge rusher that we ultimately ended up selecting in the third round, Landon Jackson, has been placed on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. And I got to tell you, this comes as a shock to me, especially since we saw him be a full participant during mandatory minicamp. Did not hear any reports whatsoever. If any of us are curious, Landon Jackson does have a bit of an injury history. He did tear 2 ACL tears in college. Okay. Well, excuse me, 2 ACL tears and an ankle fracture in high school, plus another ACL tear in college. So the edge rusher that Buffalo decided to draft in the third round is on the PUP list, and we don't have answers. What could have happened between this window between mandatory minicamp going into training camp by itself? Now, in case any of us are curious about how exactly does the physically unable to perform list work, during training camp, we're in a solid window. If, for example, he gets medically cleared in a week before team practices begin, I highly doubt that he would have been added to this list if that was the case. Then theoretically, he can just go right back on the field like nothing would happen, or like nothing is going to happen, excuse me. However, if this man remains on the physically unable to perform list, okay, the active PUP, past week 1 or before week 1 begins, then we're not going to have him for 4 straight weeks, and we wouldn't be able to see him until week 5. Why does that concern me? It's not because I was anticipating that this draft pick in Landon Jackson was going to be a world breaker day 1. However, I do think it is necessary for each and every single rookie to get those very important training camp reps, because we know how Sean McDermott tends to operate, folks. From the jump, most rookies have a very short leash, and he wants them to develop before he ends up gaining their trust. A perfect example was last year with Cole Bishop. Who knows what Cole Bishop would have been in 2024 if he actually did have that set in stone training camp session, or those training camp reps, which are so important. But then we ended up seeing him be slow walked right into the defense, and his training camp period began midway through the season, where he wasn't even rolled out toward the back half of said season. This right here tells me that more than likely we're going to see Landon Jackson take a very similar path to what Cole Bishop did last year. Like, we are unfortunately not going to be able to see a day 1 or a year 1 contribution, of course, assuming and wondering when he is coming back. But I got to tell you, folks, this guy would not have been placed on this list if Buffalo genuinely thought that he was going to be back so within a reasonable time. As far as like players, as far as fans watching these training camp practices, I would not anticipate that we are going to see him practice at all. Best case scenario, maybe he starts taking some reps when we're well into the first preseason game, or maybe after the second preseason game. So his development into this roster is now at question, especially when you look at where our current edge rushers are, right? Have Gregory Rousseau, he's obviously the starter. Have Joey Bosa, who was injured during mandatory minicamp. They're saying he should be a full go by training camp. Let's cross our fingers and hope that he can stay healthy, for the love of God, right? Then some of the AJ Epinesa action, and then exact same thing when it comes into Solomon. So as far as players that, number 1, so I trust are going to stay healthy, and number 2, could be day 1 contributors, Greg Rousseau is the only person that is on this edge depth chart that I am looking at right now, where I'm like, okay, yeah, I am good. So now we just have Russo, then Joey Bosa, who has a massive injury history, so we don't know if he's going to make it out of training camp. And now Landon Jackson is ultimately placed on the PUP list. Now, Chris Brown from the Buffalo Bills himself did add some additional context, saying that he is on the active PUP list and he can be activated for practice as soon as he is medically cleared from his injury. Let's cross our fingers and hope that this is the case, because for a young player like this, he needs to get these training camp reps. It is absolutely imperative, or otherwise his development is going to be paused for an entire NFL season. And in my opinion, I thought that he would have been a key contributor to this defensive line year one, as long as he ended up getting his reps. So that is wildly, wildly unfortunate. Folks, as you are coming in, please do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already, and let's get into business and see what people have to say about all of this. We have Sonate has come in. This only happens to us, bruh. Well, hey, man, you know what? It's part of the game. It is part of the game. Shout out to Jack Earps coming in with a $2 donation. Let our first 3 draft picks walk. All soft AF. Jack is upset with all 3 of the first round draft picks. He's totally upset with where we are. Guys, as we are coming in, please label all of your submissions with either a Q or a S for me to understand whether or not that is a question or a statement, so I can easily decipher between the two. But this is some breaking news I figured that all of us need to discuss. Nick's 716. We should trade for Shamar, Stewart, or Trey Hendrickson. We'll give them Epinesa a second round for Hendrickson, or Epinesa and fourth for Stewart. I don't think that we're going to be making many moves outside of the organization as of now. Eric Brown has come in. Hi, Dan. How are you? I am doing great. Well, and so I was doing great right up until I ended up hearing that Landon Jackson is already added to the PUP list. And let me tell you what, I am still watching like a hawk to see whether or not that TJ Sanders decided to show up to camp today. Bills have placed defensive end Landon Jackson on the active/PUP list 1 week out from the start of training camp per League Wire. A league source tells me that the team is hopeful he'll be ready for the start of practice next week. For the love of God, let's hope so. But then again, why would we put him on the PUP list if that was right? Say that it was that much of a concern. Why would we just put him on the PUP list or wait until the practice began? That is a different equation. Yeah, nobody wants AJ Epinesa. What type of injury is it? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand. I'm sitting here looking at his injury history, and he has 2 ACL tears and an ankle fracture in high school. So guy has had 3 ACL injuries and an ankle fracture. So let's pray it's not knee pain. And so I wouldn't suggest that it is, but it very well might be. What happened to Maxwell? He seems to be okay, not unless I'm like missing a report that just came in. But as of right now, folks, Landon Jackson, our edge rusher, is listed on the PUP list. Training camp starts July 22nd. So when I hear that they are hopeful that he's ready for practice next week, why would they put him on the PUP list? Like, why would they put him on the PUP list? Like, basically just have him right in the back of the classroom studying the plays. Like, that's really what I think this rookie portion of training camp is anyway. Like, why would we jump the gun if we had any confidence level at all that he could be ready next week? Here's my take. Best case scenario, we see him 5th practice open to the media. 5th. Worst case is that we see him activated maybe a few days, like right before week 1. And that would then institute a Sean McDermott quasi-type training camp where he's going to have very limited snaps as he learns the system, like right as he ends up getting those physical reps in practice. And he's going to follow the exact same path as, of course, what Cole Bishop did last year. That's kind of where my thought process is. Statement. You think this could be the team's way of forcing him to get a physical to get additional info about his neck? I don't know. I don't know. And I wish that we had answers, right? Lori has come in. Why would you even consider him as a draft with all of those injuries in high school? Doesn't make sense. Like maybe it was based off of value where he ended up falling. We did get him in the, so the third round. So it wasn't terrible, but it's still something to look at. Devin, I heard something about a rumor of allegations brought forth about him, but I don't know. Yeah, that is dead from what I understand. This sucks, but he wasn't on the team last year. He may have made us better, but him not starting won't make us worse. Hopefully his injury is not bad and can stay healthy during the season. That is a very optimistic way of looking at it, Spidey. But when I look at our defensive line, I feel like we need to take a look at what our depth looks like, right? So we have Larry Ogunjobi, who is suspended for 6 weeks. Same thing with Michael Hoyt. So we have 2 depth players on the defensive line not available right up until week 7. Have Bosa right on the opposite side of Rousseau. He struggles to stay healthy. So that's rolling the dice right here. Now we have this question mark of Landon Jackson. How long is this guy going to be on the PUP list? Like, yeah, maybe I'm hearing next week. Great. But I kind of feel like that's fantasy land talking. So our depth, at least for the first half of the season, is certainly suspect. Especially say that one of our starters goes down. Like, who's filling in that role? Say you were the current GM and you know the injury history and concerns. What moves would you make or not make to get this team better? So regarding Landon Jackson, I probably still would have taken him right in the 3rd round, right? Is my thought process would be, so I could absolutely hit a home run, a late round home run, and say that it doesn't work out, then I could just revisit the draft next year and aim for an edge rusher in the 1st or the 2nd. That's largely where I'm at here. Question, are we doing call-ins on this stream? Not on this one, guys. I'm only going to be live for a couple of more minutes. I wanted to do a breaking news segment and discuss with what you guys, what we think about this. So let's discuss. Frank Gore had multiple ACL tears in college, and he played forever in the NFL. It's true. It's true. It is very true. Let's sign Zaire Smith. He is available. I don't think that we're going to need to be making any transactions outside of the organization. Like a Bantha, can we look at the schedule to see how the injuries would affect us long-term with the suspensions of depth players with the Ogunjobi and Hoyt? It's a great question, dude. Like a Bantha, I really appreciate you coming on in. Let's check out what the first 6 weeks of the Bills' schedule looks like, and let's compare what the offensive lines and QBs we're going up against. And granted, like we're healthy from a starter perspective, right? So have Rousseau, have Ed Oliver, have Daquan Jones, and worst case scenario, if Joey Bosa does get injured at any point during training camp, we do have Epinesa. Say what you want about him. And so he is familiar with the defensive line, but then it's after those people, right? I don't trust Deion Walker, at least toward the beginning of the season, to fill in for an injured Daquan Jones. Maybe TJ Sanders could fill in for Ed Oliver. I don't know, but a lot of new pieces and a large learning curve. So that's kind of where I'm at. So we would have the Baltimore Ravens. So week 1. And I will tell you what, I do wish that we did have Ogunjobi. Solid big man that could help with Derrick Henry right up the middle. I'm not going to lie to you. Have the Jets. Solid offensive line there, right? With the Dolphins, not so much of a concern for me, especially against that offensive line. Same thing could be said about the Saints. Same thing could be said about the Patriots. And arguably, same thing could be said about the Falcons. So when I look at, as far as our schedule the question marks we have on all of the unavailable, with all of the unavailable players on the defensive line, I feel like we're okay. But that is me. Midnight has come in. Statement, I don't like when we have injuries, but it's not during the season, but I get that rookies need the reps for sure. My concern is, I felt like Landon Jackson was one of those rookies where I could see them actually bringing a quality contribution to this team year 1. like one of the shortest roads of development, like somebody that literally could go in day one or day two even and get about 30 to 40% of the snap share. Like a heavy rotation between him and Joey Bosa would be ideal, right? But say that he misses some of these reps, that's only going to pause that process and pause that development, which is a bit unfortunate. But we shall see. Midnight, I don't like when we have injuries. Flip has come in. We need a defensive tackle that can help Oliver off double teams. I think Jackson can be that guy that can help. We have Devontae Mott, and the Falcons have a really good offensive line. I'll tell you what, folks, let me tell you what. Say, for example, that you have ever dreamed of hitting golf balls into Highmark Stadium. Guess what? You now have your opportunity. Folks, right now I have partnered up with Garage Beer for the NFL season. I'm very excited about that. Shout out to Garage Beer. However, they brought to my attention that they are throwing an event right in cahoots with the Upper Deck Golf Company. And you are going to be able to play golf from the upper deck inside of Highmark Stadium, July 25th through July 27th. And if you scan this QR code right here, folks, you have an opportunity of winning 2 VIP tickets. So whether or not that you are a golfer or you think that it would be a fun experience and you're looking for something to do on the 25th through 27th, highly recommend you go scan this QR code and enter for your chance to win some VIP tickets. Shout out to Garage Beer for being a new partner of the show for the upcoming NFL season. I am so excited about that. And for those of you that want to take advantage of some golf in Highmark Stadium, take care of that, boys. Shamar Stewart just went back to Texas A&M. Does this start a trend that maybe these second rounders that want guaranteed money? What do you think? Mike, that is a great question. So the thing is that say that Shamar Stewart did want to play for Texas A&M again, he would need to fight that in court. He could potentially win, but how fast is that legal process going to go? So no, I don't believe that's going to be the case, but now we're all just patiently waiting to see if we've heard any news right now of whether or not that we see an update on TJ Sanders, because I am very curious to see. And so do you see Solomon getting more reps and a bigger role in the defense? He's probably going to have to, right? Say, for example, that Landon Jackson does miss significant time. Like, say that he misses the first 5 days of practice during training camp. Then I think Solomon's probably going to squeeze his way onto this roster and squeeze his way into more of a bit of a snap share, at least toward the beginning of the season. That, of course, is the question. But I don't even know, boys. I don't even know. We have Anthony Padilla. Week 3 is going to be lit. Go Bills. I cannot wait to meet all of you at our event. Question. So do they get in trouble when they do a sit out like this? Are you wasting your team's picks? No, because technically, so they're not even under contract. So fines really aren't a thing when you're not contractually obligated to anything. So it's really not hurting them at all. KP Fisher said, you scrolled too fast to get the code. I am sorry, KP. There you go, my friend. Scan for your chance to win VIP tickets to golf at Highmark Stadium, the July 25th through 27th. Go check it out, man. Listen, it's a cool thing. Shout out to Garage Beer. Beer tasting beer. Sponsoring the channel, baby. Look at that. Question. So do they get in trouble when they do a sit out like this, or you're wasting your team's picks? No, you do not. No problem, KP. No problem, my guy. Let me know. Dante Jenkins, the Jets are the Jets. They just signed people they already had. Don't change anything. Oh, my God. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of an emergency episode of the Don Mafia Report. Guys, so I do want to remind everybody that I am normally live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST. And typically what I do on all of my episodes is I do welcome in callers. I treat it like a radio show where I normally put the link right in the live chat, and anybody that wants to come in and talk football or discuss what is on their mind can have these conversations with me. So highly recommend that if you're just tuning in, please do me a favor, subscribe and turn on bell notifications. and I really hope that I'm able to discuss a lot of things with you tomorrow morning during my normal call-in segment on the channel. Subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and I will see you next time.